a Benson because he's no longer on the, you'll find a letter of resignation, consent agenda if we are so inclined. I'd like to say, I think you guys are all on the agenda. Close the open forum and move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has of the American Legion bingo permit, March 10th, March 24th, April 14th. Their permit, and also if we can add resolution 2018-2 to this consent agenda to approve. Counselor.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Motion.
Yep.
Time he's put on the council, and hope that he stays involved in the community. And
we will miss him in our own. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Climate Action Plan Green Step Coordinator. So Shane, why don't you come up? Nordic Nature Group came. We did this climate action plan last year. We said we were going to work on it, and we also pursued and secured some grant funding to advertise that position. We got one response. That was Shane's there in the past, and is handing that torch over. We have there
from Shane.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm Shane in Decorah, Iowa, with Green Iowa AmeriCorps and the Winneshiek Energy District. And I'm excited. What the Nordic Nature Group has given me, and
Nice.
So Brian is with
Great
Plains
Plains
Institute. They received some climate action plans together, including working on ours. It's going to be meeting with, we're going to invite him, and George. Well, Rebecca's shown.
The Citizens Climate Lobby has an interest in the process, and I don't know how chair of that. So and yeah, so we kind of envision a collaborative process and try to get those stakeholders and take.
I don't know. We'll see what Brian says.
Some of the processes for these, interesting to see what Brian has been able to get. It started off really greenhouse gas inventory and some other assessments that Shane back in. We'll put some more energy into that so that we can keep that inertia going. Action plan, like we want to really get this thing. The state, we've found that there is some value in that, and we think that while we're going through our climate action plan, the Green Steps, our standing in the Green Step cities for Minnesota should be pretty easily advanced to a step 3 or potentially even a step 4 city as we start putting more infrastructure in and start taking a more serious look at our climate impact in the region. So that's all. I think that's all pretty good stuff.
To get started, we're going to meet every couple of weeks, so twice a month. Potentially have something to report to the council on that sort of monthly or periodic basis as well. What's going on?
And Shane is essentially quarter time, 10 hours a week we have funding for 2 years. But we've also said we've made it clear that he can front load that as much as he'd like.
As long as we can get the stuff done, that's why you're here.
Yeah, that's all you have to do is get it done.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Great.
never a problem there.
Do you guys have any questions for Shane or George, or any
No, this is good, because, you know, we've been talking about it and kind of waiting until this is all coming to have this come together so that we could actually start working on it. So, glad to have you on board.
Yeah, thanks.
That's great. Look forward to seeing what you come up with. See what comes up.
Yeah.
Anything else that you guys have? I mean, this is really just the intro.
Right.
At the next meeting, we'll, hopefully you'll have more to report about what Brian Ross said and what.
And I
the
think
next
we
steps
talked
are.
about the first thing would be to, like, inventory what's been done so
Right.
far, because we've been talking and there's a lot of things that have been done, but they've never been put into one place. So
Perfect.
let's find out everything that's been
Oh,
done.
that sounds great. You mean having information so that we can use it? Incredible! What a great idea.
Mike, you would have said if there's some action that needs to be taken, I imagine?
Right. We'll probably be drafting a contract to work with Shane, since we've got this grant money that we're going to use to pay him. So we'll look at that at a different meeting. You don't have to do anything official tonight. And the next meeting where we talk about this probably won't be the next meeting in 2 weeks, but
Hmm.
rather maybe a little bit after that. So, and we'll keep working in the background. Keep you posted.
Sounds good.
Great.
Great, well, thanks for coming down
That's
today,
it.
guys.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is just a kind of meet and greet.
Yeah, introductory.
Um,
Keep people up to speed on what's happening.
Now we know that we're actually moving on it, so now we can be expecting to hear more about it in the future.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's good.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The next thing on the agenda, and do you have the job descriptions in the packet?
Yep.
So, in the packet, you will find a job description. This job description is for a position that we're calling a management assistant / director of communications. And that is a working title because we weren't really sure what to call this, this position. This is a full-time position in the administrative service of the city, kind of an assistant to the administrator, but also kind of the head of communications for the city as well. So the reason we're looking to hire a position for this is because in the past year we've had, or will have, 3 people that have retired out. So Jan with the PUC, we had Mike take a different job with the electrical, and we'll have Tina retiring in about 2 weeks. 3 weeks? Something like that?
Yeah.
It's coming quickly. It's coming very quickly. And so that leaves us some payroll monies, and it also leaves us a great deal of capacity to fill. And so in restructuring the office, we decided that we wanted something that had a little bit more ability to deal with specific projects and special projects, as well as to fill some of the gaps that we've perceived are there in the city's operations. And one of those big things that we saw was communications. We'd really like for someone to be in charge of customer service and general communications between the city and the community. And so that's why that was put in there as the first essential duty. Then personnel management, assisting with personnel management, as well as working on planning. And then, of course, you have to have that kind of catch-all special projects in the next page there.
So it's just the jack of all trades, right, position?
Well, it's more about the type of skills I imagine we're looking for than the actual list of duties. We have a list of duties. We have an idea of the things that we want to do a better job of, or things that we don't do and we want to start doing. But what we're looking for in a position like this is somebody that has relational skills, somebody that knows how to communicate using current technologies to do so. So our model in the past has been we have a presence in the building, at City Hall, or on the phone, and that's pretty much it. That's how we communicate with people. And that model's really been shifting for a while, and now I think it's going to shift again, and we need somebody to help us do that. In the meantime, rather than communication being waiting for somebody to call, it's going to be about engaging people like we've been doing for the past couple of years with projects, and this person's just going to lead that effort in actively going out and communicating with the public about the service needs and about what's been going on, and celebrating successes, all the things that we've maybe wanted to do but haven't had the skills or the staff time to do. So that's what I see happening with a job like this.
This is something that the Personnel Committee's been talking about. Like, we've been thinking about succession planning for a couple of years now, knowing that we're gonna have a lot of the FTEs basically retire out of the office. So this is part of a succession plan that the city has been, that the Personnel Committee has been thinking about.
So when we were talking about during the budget conversations, you were talking about the future staffing, and this was one of those positions that we talked about. What comes after this?
Potentially nothing. What's in the budget is this position, the halftime city secretary position that we have already hired as well, and another administrative position that focuses more on the technical side of things, report writing and tracking, and particularly with utilities, but also really with anything that we do, more of that, not necessarily relational, but technical side of things. We're not sure if we're going to need that position, so that was always the plan. And when we talked about that at the budget, it was we know we need the halftime secretary now because we actually just need help covering the hours that we plan on being open. This position comes next, and when this person is here and has been here for a few months, and we have a good idea of what they're going to be doing and what Kim's going to be doing and what I'm going to be doing, then we decide, do we need to go forward with that other position, or do we have everything covered now?
Okay.
You'll notice that the points assigned to this one is 182 out of the rating scale that we use.
Yeah, I don't recall where that falls. I mean, it's,
Right. The salary, it would start at about just under 45 a year, and would be just over 50 within 12 months. So it's maybe the lower end of our department head level salaries and the upper end of our non-supervisory salaries.
Sure.
And that's largely due to the technical nature of the work that this position calls for.
Yeah, this is somebody that's going to be really, although they're going to be collaborative, there's a lot of independent. You have to be able to really create your own schedule and track your own work, really come up with your own methods for a lot of the things that are happening. This isn't something that somebody can read a job description and figure out how to do it. They have to have some skill that they're bringing in.
And what action are you asking for us tonight?
Well, this is a new position, so I want you to approve the job description and then go ahead and authorize us advertising and hiring it.
I'll make that motion then to approve this position for the Management Assistant Director of Communications and to also advertise for filling that position.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? I would propose that we include the concept that that title is a working title, so that title might evolve a little bit in what we want to call it. But I think that Management Assistant Director of Communications is probably as close as what we're going to get. But I just think that maybe that makes sense to include that in the understanding of this motion, that that's a temporary working title and it might change. Because otherwise, if we approve it as that, then it seems to me like then we're approving the advertising of a management assistant / director of communications.
I call it a temporary title because I don't want to emphasize that. The list of duties, the list of requirements, that's what it's about. Title itself, hopefully the type of person that's good at this job is going to be better at figuring out what the title ought to be than I am.
Executive project manager.
Executive
Another
project
vague
manager.
title.
Wow, yeah.
That's
Title,
crazy.
meh.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but that role of,
Yeah. Should have just had you help us name it.
that's right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the, to approve this job description and to authorize the advertisement of this position.
Is there health insurance?
Yeah, full benefit
Full
package.
benefit.
Okay, I just didn't know what exempt meant, full-time exempt.
Exempt means that they don't get paid overtime.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they work the hours that they need to work, and we don't track it by the hour.
When you list it, do you list like the points 1, 8, 2, or do you list like some sort of range? Or do you not even list what the salary is?
No, when we advertise, we're advertising the starting salary.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
that
great.
points is a completely internal concept. It doesn't mean much to
Yeah.
Yeah.
anybody, and out of context, it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Important to point out as well in the discussion of this position that this is a new position that we're creating. So this position will have to be assessed just like the assistant library director position was,
When are you
for union compatibility and
When are
such.
you gonna fly it? When are you gonna run it? Advertise it?
Friday,
Friday?
yeah,
How long?
couple weeks. So we'll ask for people to turn in applications sometime in February, and we'll start reviewing applications on the 23rd, so 3 weeks from Friday. And the newspaper is just step one. I would hope that you would also think about people that might be interested or know people that are interested and actually just ask them. And also, if you have an opportunity, just mention this on social media accounts that we're looking for this. And
You know, chicken before the egg thing, right? Because the communications. Right?
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
you got it.
Great.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, so with that, we're gonna move right along to the council and staff reports. Anton?
There was no EDA meeting this month. And I wasn't at the last meeting, but we were, I don't know, Mike, you talked about Sawtooth Bluff, any of that stuff from the last meeting, or not really? I don't know if there is much to talk about, but.
I don't know if we did talk much about it. No, I don't think there's much to talk about yet either. I kind of think that after this next phase is done is when we want to really make an effort to get the word out on where we're at.
So.
Sawtooth Bluff.
Sawtooth
Yeah,
Bluff.
Sawtooth Bluff, yeah. Yeah, no, I guess I don't have anything then.
Okay.
I'll wait. Dave's gone now, so I'll have to, you'll jog my memory.
Somebody's gotta do it.
Something happens. Well, yeah, and there was a Parks and Trails Commission meeting on Monday, and one of the things we did talk about was Sawtooth Bluffs, kind of just kind of where it's at and, how it's progressing. I think the commission has a little bit of a concern in terms of, the timeline, because I think the original timeline was expected that the project was going to be completed by the end of February, which seemed like an unrealistic timeline to begin with.
And
of course,
you've
here we are.
proven that one.
Well, pretty much, yeah. And I think Lisa Kerr went back and looked at the contract, and the contract actually allows continuation of this process through the year. But, I think there were some concerns raised about, whether the plan ultimately was going to be a plan that was going to be a legacy eligible master plan. And she was going to make sure she talked to Andy Hubley to,
Yeah, the committee's brought that back to the table a number of times, just as a reminder that that's kind of the basis for this conversation. It's not If it was just Andy sitting in an office writing up a master plan, it would take till the end of February.
Mhm.
The fact that we're involving people in the conversation is why it takes quite a bit longer.
Well,
So,
and
and
that
that's,
was-
we need to do that.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons initially I questioned the timeline for the process, because how do you have public involvement and compress it into a, really narrow time frame when public involvement means you're spending time to engage the public and gather that information, then you have to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did talk about a little bit was the issue of, which is totally separate from what the steering committee's been talking about, but the issue between the city and the county in terms of any kind of conversations about operations or management or oversight, and
Yeah.
the fact that there is no system. And so I suggested to Ginny Storley that this is something that they should begin conversations with at the county board. And I think we should also begin conversations here about what, if any, is our interest and involvement, and how that might look, whether it's a city involvement, whether it's a county oversight, or overseeing project, or
Yeah.
whether it's a joint effort, and the joint, becomes more confusing as to how that might work, so.
Well, maybe, but we do a lot of that. So what we did talk about at the committee level was just recognizing that that's a conversation that has to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to happen before we're done with this phase of the plan, but it does have to be pretty clearly understood before we're going to be submitting a master plan for approval.
Right.
That the way that the committee's been talking about the project, I think, makes that conversation a little easier, because one of the principles is that this is really more of creating a setting for other groups that have interests and skills and ability to create some of these uses to come forward and do that, rather than the city or the county going and building 20 miles of trail and then maintaining it. So it doesn't all just get rolled out unless we understand how it's going to be maintained. That's one of the important principles.
Yeah. One of the things that became a little bit somewhat evident with Legacy, though, is with the bike trail funding that came this last year, is that when the county received that contract, there was really still no point person at the county to deal with that. And then the issue of going out to bids, who prepares those bid documents, and, everybody kind of had a little bit of a part to play in that, but nobody took a leadership role, and things got bogged down, and I would hope we've learned, the county maybe has learned a little bit about, that process, but still, like I say, there's not a point person that carries it all the way through. It's one person's doing this part of the project, another person doing this part of the project, another person doing something else.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be a central person that is responsible for ushering it all the way through, and central clearinghouse for all the files or whatever. And, this is obviously going to have to, come about if this becomes eligible for funding too. So.
And the conversation here is so much easier because we already do this. So we know what it means
Yeah.
to take this on. We understand how we would do it. We have the pieces in place to do it. So it's just a question of resource allocation. Whereas at the county, they don't have a parks department. And if they want to be involved in these types of projects, they might have to figure out how's that going to happen.
That's right.
And it's just an origin conversation.
That's
rather
right.
than-
So, well, just to point it out that, the conversation, at some point needs to take place at this level in terms of what the city's, relationship with this project is going to be, and, how we might, communicate with the county in terms of their interest and willingness and capabilities too,
Yeah.
so.
So that Ginny was at that meeting and Lisa was at that meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then the one other item was, that both Dave Mills and myself are representatives on the Parks and Trails Commission. I represent the city. Dave represented the city. I represent District 3. We talked about just reversing that.
Mhm.
And the question was, seemed like for the city part, it seemed pretty simple. It seemed like for the District 3 that they would have to go and appoint
Renominating or something.
appoint Dave to be the District 3 representative. So at this point, I mean, since Dave isn't the city representative anymore, he's no longer on the commission. I'm the District 3 rep. I could be now the city rep, and opening up that position for Dave to fill for District 3 if the city wants to make that appointment to change.
So you'd have to step down as the 3, and then, right, and we could appoint you
Yep.
on as the city, and now that 3 is open, then in
That's right.
theory, they could appoint Dave.
Well, it sounds like you need
That's
to
out of our
do
hands.
the district stuff first, the District 3 stuff first.
I think that you right now
Who's
could
did it?
say, Mills is no longer the rep, Tim is the rep.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Tim.
Congratulations. Incredible how that
And
works.
and then we need, then somebody has to have a conversation with the county about the District 3 representative, so that's,
Well, if you do decide to vote on that, then I'll just send Jeff and Lisa a note and let them know that the council appointed Tim and that,
I'd make a motion to seat Tim Kennedy on the Parks and Trails
As a city rep.
board as a city representative.
I'll second that. Motion and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
all right, and then one last thing, a week or so ago, the county called together their vacation rental committee again.
Mm.
They hadn't met for a year, 2 years, something like that, and, you know, they called a meeting. I wasn't able to attend, but I did talk to Tim Nelson afterwards and just kind of give an idea of what, first, the reasoning for calling the meeting, you know, was there an issue that, you know, prompted that, and, you know, what the outcome of the meeting was, and, you know, really, what he suggested was that there's kind of just underlying current that, you know, vacation rentals, you know, some people perceive them as not paying their fair share in terms of I think it's the sales tax issue, and so the conversation,
Lodging tax issue, isn't
sales and lodging tax.
Yeah.
Which, you know, amounts to 12+%, so if somebody is renting properties and not, you know, charging that, they're probably at a competitive advantage, but he said the conversation at the committee really went around and ended up basically back where they started, and that, you know, that didn't seem like that was a county issue to resolve, and kind of left it at, you know, probably nothing will be done to affect that. Probably most likely the result will be similar to what the city has done, is taken their old ordinance language, verbiage, definitions, which are still the old 70s vintage boarding house, tourist home, you know, stuff that has never been changed, and probably try to simplify that, you know, but I think that's probably the extent of where things are going with vacation rental. Tim didn't think that there was going to be any land use issue or discussion. He said it's really never been problematic in terms of land use, and it's not the type of, doesn't have the type of impact that it might have in the city where homes were being used for vacation rental that might have otherwise been part of the residential housing pool, where Lake Superior homes and Inland Lake homes and that are not necessarily part of the residential makeup of you know, of the housing stock, so probably not as significant an impact in the county. That's all I have.
Okay.
Sounds good. Let's see, today I went down to Split Rock Lighthouse again to give a presentation to the Senate Capital Investment Committee in regards to our boat launch project. It's pretty much the same presentation we've given the last 3 times we've done that, and they asked pretty much the same questions, which was, what's the city's match in the project? And I said, well, we just built this public works facility which cost the city several $million dollars, and we're going to be having the maintenance of the facility as we have with the existing DNR facility, and they seem to take that pretty straightforward. So I thought that was pretty encouraging that they assumed that was our match, which I think makes sense, because I feel like that's a pretty significant match. In order to enable that project to happen, we had to get our stuff out of there. So that was good. Another step towards that. The more people we talk to about it, the better chance we have of it gaining traction down with the bonding bill. The governor recently sent a bonding, the governor's bonding bill, sent that to the legislature with $1.6 billion worth of things in it, and then also sent an additional $800 million worth of requests to the legislature separately. So in the past, that's not how it is done. Usually in the past, the governor sends the governor's bonding bill, and that's what the governor's priorities are. And then that means that if you didn't make it the governor's bonding bill, then you had to basically go, and try and get it into the bonding bill a different way. So this is interesting, because we don't know exactly how the legislature is going to read that there's, basically $2.4 billion worth of bonding requests into, in the next legislative cycle. And ours is $2.3 million of that. So cross your fingers. The Gitchigami State Trail also presented, as well as the Minnesota Historical Society. City of Silver Bay is also putting in requests for bonding money for their concept campground, the Black Beach campground. So there's definitely some competition, some stiff competition for that money. But like I said, we really have no idea what's going to happen when that hits the legislature, because that's way too much. That they're not going to approve $2.4 billion worth of bonding stuff this year.
How much is the Black Beach project?
I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. They didn't present. They actually took the committee members down to the site so that they could see where the site would be. I want to say that it was somewhere $3.5 million or something like that. It was more than our project was.
Have you had any conversations with Rob Eklund at all, about in terms of his priorities for bonding projects in his district?
Rob was at the last one.
Mm-hmm.
That was the House bonding committee was the last one, and Rob's on that. I think he's actually one of the chair people, I believe, for that.
Mm-hmm.
And his comments were that there are a lot of really good projects that'll make a lot of good advances in the northern part of the state. So it didn't sound like he was really prioritizing our project over another. But when I've talked to them here, because we had both Robin and Tom Bach come and take a look at the actual area that we're talking about developing, they seemed very strongly in favor of the project, just largely because the area down there is kind of bad right now. So I'm not certain exactly. I've been in touch with Rob about the project, and I'll be down there at the Capitol when this goes through the committee stage, so that I can be down there to testify for it as well. So that's about where we're at with that.
There's a Parks and Trails legislative day too, I think, March sometime too.
Yeah, like March 13th and 14th.
No, I think that's the coalition.
Maybe that's the
The
coalition.
coalitions,
one.
I think, is. I think it might be the following week.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
So
but I probably will go down for the Parks and Trails to, probably talk to Rob and,
I'll probably be down for the coalition, so we'll just have to keep peppering them.
Yep.
Okay. Yesterday I sat in on an emergency management meeting that was at the courthouse. That one, they talked about the, well, first of all, the annual emergency response seminar. It's an annual thing, 29th annual emergency management seminar, and that's going to be happening. I believe that's happening in, is that happening in April? April, something like that. And then they also are going to be doing the cross-border exercises up in Grand Portage again this year, and it's 2 dates. I can't remember exactly which dates they are. I want to say they're in the spring. I want to say maybe March. But I would like to attend those. I believe that would be important to have us there to know what our role is. And it sounds like the province of Ontario is probably going to sign on to that compact fully, which means that then we can start working on actually getting cross-border participation really established, because we can go into Canada, but they couldn't come into the U.S. until their province signed off on it. And now it sounds like they're going to sign off on it maybe at that conference. So that could be pretty cool. And a big step forward for us being able to work across the border better. So that's pretty exciting. Let me see what else I've got going on. I went to a C-Club meeting. The C-Club meeting was, we talked a lot about, it was like the end of year numbers and things like that. The C-Club's doing pretty well as far as fulfilling its mission. We did talk a little bit about the electric car charging. There's a proposal for the city to install a couple of electric car charging stations in the municipal parking lot here in correlation with Arrowhead Electric. And I believe that that's going to be moving forward. I think that would be good for us to have on the map. We don't know a lot of details about that yet. I don't think you probably know more than I do, but it sounds like it's going to happen this summer, so that's good. Then I had a library board meeting on Monday. Library board was basically just discussed strategic planning initiatives, making sure that we knew how we were going to be meeting those goals. The library staff have purchased all of the computers to replace the workstations, like the failing and dated workstations. So as soon as they have staff time to put them all in, all the computers there will be brand new Windows 10 machines, and that'll be a really good deal for people to have access to that at the library. And they do have a couple of Mac machines as well. They did get a new copy machine, which now is completely compatible with all the computers that we have. So it's working on improving the service that we can offer through the library for people who don't have those services at their homes. And I went and talked to the Girl Scouts on, not like a week ago Thursday, because they needed to get their little badge on understanding local government. So I went and they asked me all kinds of questions about what I do. That was kind of fun. And they gave me animal crackers, so it was all right.
Nice.
The animal crackers.
Yeah, man, right?
Not Girl Scout cookies.
No, they sell you
They don't
those.
give those.
I mean,
As soon as I told them, one of the girls asked if I ate Girl Scout cookies, and I said yes, and then they all just like perked up. It's like, oh, this is gonna be bad. I'm gonna have like 40 Girl Scouts asking me to buy
it's
cookies.
so good.
Yeah.
I just gave them your number at a time.
That's good.
So that I believe that was all my meetings. I've got a couple more meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks too, so of course I'll report on those later. Anything else? You guys have anything?
Just 2 upcoming items for your next meeting. Chris will be here to give a report on liquor store stuff.
Nice.
Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to this meeting because he's in Arizona.
Oh, bummer.
It's terrible, terrible news. And then MnDOT representatives will be here to talk about the Highway 61 project and begin the conversation of municipal consent. So they won't be asking us to do anything at that meeting. They'll just kind of be setting the table for a public conversation about the municipal consent of the project. So we're looking at hopefully doing a February 14th and then a March 14th follow-up where there's a resolution in front of you.
Okay. February 14th is our first meeting.
That's 2 weeks from now, yeah, so that's next meeting.
Awesome.
You're gonna bring some,
Thanks for making my plans for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, well, it's Karina's birthday today, so.
I saw that, she had a
It's
big
Karina's
piece,
birthday today.
she had a big piece of cake, I saw that.
Good, I hope she did.
I will not be at the next meeting. Unfortunately.
Dang
All this
it!
good stuff going on.
That means we
Yeah.
need to,
Need to find another
we
person.
need to find another person, or else we need to make Tracy come.
She'll be here.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of, we just like pick somebody right now for the others, for Millsy's seat?
There's no process that you're required to follow other than
I don't know.
you don't have to do an election.
That's not one, if we just like choose somebody right now and tell them, like you can write them a letter tomorrow and tell
Yeah,
them.
you've
that
been
they're on.
appointed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way that
It's
appointments
only
work.
11 months left, come on.
That's the way that appointments work. So, I mean, if you have someone that you've had a conversation with, that you think
Make a
would be
motion.
good at-
Big talker.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, we should.
Gosh, I was really hoping there for a second
Well,
Tease
that
us
you'd
like
make a
that.
motion. Comp plan stuff, you heard back from those guys? Do we have any, like, timeline on when we're gonna see some stuff to?
We submitted they gave us a list of options of data points and quotes from the engagement to include in the plan, and we replied with the selections that we wanted to see, so. No, that, I don't have an update on when that'll come back yet.
Right. Sounds good. I don't think we have any other updates. Any final comments? Okay, we are adjourned.
Okay.
All right, Chris.
Bye,
Bye,
Chris.
Chris.
Have a good night, everybody.